I'm with Emily from Fazaa. Now, Emily, what is Fazaa?
Fazaa is an initiative created by a group of Palestinians in order to help Palestinian families receive the support and resiliency they need to survive the COVID pandemic and life difficulties in Palestine. So the idea is that we gather our efforts and our skills and we go to a family. We identify a need that they actually need urgently, and then we decide on a small project that this family can hold so they could sustain their income by this project and they wouldn't need anyone anymore.
What does the word Fazaa mean in Arabic?
So the project's name, Fazaa, is inspired from a positive habit that is common in the Palestinian society where relatives and friends accelerate to help in harvesting, in picking olives, in preparing weddings without being asked to help. So it's when people rush to work together voluntarily to help someone. So we say in Arabic, nifza, yalla nifza, let's go help as a group, voluntarily help someone.
And when was this organization started and why was it started? Was it specifically set up just for the COVID-19 pandemic?
So I myself has been unemployed for 10 months now. A lot of people have been unemployed since last March, since the COVID pandemic have started all over the world. But since we know Bethlehem especially depends on tourism sector, and the tourism sector was the most affected by this pandemic, a lot of people lost their jobs. We do know that the COVID pandemic have affected everyone, but families have been affected in a different level. There were people who were barely managing their lives, so when they got affected, they have fallen under the poverty line since then. So the idea was, if I'm able, like I'm living with my parents, I'm in an okay situation, I have some skills, I can speak languages, the idea is that I am able to help other people who are not able to help themselves. So the idea of Fazaa, that I'm writing these stories, I'm writing about the family's projects, and I will be fundraising for each family separately.
Has COVID really been extremely devastating for families here in the Bethlehem Governorate?
Yes, because now they have two kind of burdens. They have the burden of the COVID pandemic, and they have the burden of the occupation. So struggling from one, now they're struggling from two, and they are barely getting their daily bread. And without having a job and being unemployed, a lot of stores, a lot of factories have shut down. This have so much affected the people in here.
How many people have actually fallen below the poverty line? Do you have any figures for Palestine or Bethlehem?
Well, according to the Palestinian Ministry of Social Department, around 53,000 families have fallen under the poverty line since March this year. This is in the West Bank in Palestine.
Are you helping families with sickness and medical bills?
So the idea is that we are going to help these Palestinian families with resources that aid in their recovery, whether it's elementary, medical, or social support. We see what they actually need, we fulfill this need, and then we help them build their own project, so all the holes would be filled, and then they could stand up in the society and stand up for themselves.
Are you helping families really just sort of get back on their feet again?
Yes, this is the idea, that because a lot of associations now are helping by elementary boxes or medical supports or any other kind, maybe cash support, which is very good and very much needed. But the idea is that this person will, if he got cash this month, the next month he will also need cash because he haven't worked. So our Fazaa idea is that this person will not need me again. He will go and support someone else.
Are families very desperate when they come to you?
Right now, I go to find families, and I find families through personal connections, through churches, through friends, and we choose the situations that need urgent help. They actually need us, and they desperately need Fazaa.
What sort of stories are you hearing from people?
The biggest difficulty that we are having now from families that they have a lot of medical issues, and since we are under occupation and obligatory closure, Israel have closed all the borders or checkpoints with Palestine. So a lot of people are not able to go to their work. A lot of people are not able to go to hospitals, since we know that the medical level in Israel is better than in Palestine. A lot of them need some medicine from Israel that is not coming in, or they cannot go to have their medical treatment in there. Also, because of unemployment, a lot of people, they just can't afford their basic needs of clothing, of food, of electricity, of paying the rent, of even paying their fees of their children going to school. So a lot of people just withdrew their children from schools. A lot of people, youth, withdrew from their studies in university. And this is a burden because education is an essential thing. It's a very important thing. And unfortunately, the government is not helping a lot in helping people face this pandemic.
I imagine there's not really a brilliant health service and there's no health insurance. So people just don't have anything. They rely on money to actually pay for their medical expenses. And if you've got a serious illness, you're paying a lot of money out.
That's right. Thing is, there is a public insurance, but it does not cover everything. It's very strict and it's very limited. So people are obligated to go beyond this medical insurance. Just for an example, a poor family that needs to go do a dialysis for one member of the family, they live in a village, not in the city. So they need to take transportation from the village to the city. So the insurance covers their medical treatment, but they actually do not have the money for the transportation from the village to the city to go to the hospital. So they have to wait the generous donations of people in their village. So they are always waiting something from someone. When I talk to this family, like the woman, the mother would tell me, I just want to wake up one day and just not need anyone. She did not say, I want to be rich or I want to be a millionaire. She just said, I just don't want to need anyone. So being in need always is also a psychological burden on the person.
Do people come back to you and say how much you've helped them?
In Fazaa, we are still a startup project. We started in October, and we launched the campaign of gathering donations for each family for their mini project. So technically, we haven't helped anyone yet, but people are hoping, and we are hoping. We're contacting people. We're trying to diffuse Fazaa on Facebook, on our website, sending emails, and doing interviews, so we could tell people all over the world that their brothers and sisters in Palestine actually need them. And it's very simple. We're not asking for big amounts. When you donate the amount of 2 ice creams or just a meal that you haven't had today in the restaurant, that's enough for us. Any penny can help us.
So basically, you're hearing the stories of the difficulties that families are here in Bethlehem, and you're responding to it.
This is the thing. I'm not only in Bethlehem. The stories that I have are from all over Palestine, because we're not focused on one category or only one place of people. Wherever there is a call, wherever there is a family who needs us, we go. We Fazaa, nifza. And this is the concept of Fazaa. Nifza, we go for people, we find them.
Have families had to change their jobs during this time? So maybe one person's been in tourism and now has had to change jobs to something completely different?
Everyone had to change everyone who was in tourism, they had to change their working sector. A lot of them work on a taxi as a driver. A lot of them work in a service in the restaurants, although this sector was also affected because restaurants who received a lot of tourists, they cannot provide as much jobs as they used before. I want to give you more options of employment, but people like myself and people around me are currently unemployed. So not all of them found opportunity of employment. And we cannot forget that a lot of Palestinians have went to work in constructions in Israel because currently this is the only option they have. And it pays well, so they want to live.
So what were you doing before the pandemic?
Before the pandemic, I was a tour guide. I also have a master's in public policies and political action. And I used to be a proposal writer and fundraising as a freelance.
So you've been really affected because there's absolutely no tourism now, apart from local tourism. There isn't anything, is there?
Yes, I've been unemployed since 10 months now, and I live with my parents, and I thought of a way that I could use my time and help others.
Has the government helped in any way?
There was one attempt from the government that when the government collected local funds or local donation and gave about 700 shekels to people. The majority of the giving was for the tourism sector. However, not everyone had touched this amount, and of course people were not satisfied, and it was done only one time, which was totally not enough.
How much pressure is this putting on families?
A lot of pressure, especially that whoever has taken a loan from the bank, it has not been suspended. A lot of taxes to be added on this loan. Also the electricity and the water and the big companies as the telecom, nobody have suspended any payment or just said, from me to the people, I would just donate 1 month of not paying your fees this month. We were expecting something like that from the big companies. Nobody said anything, so we understood that we are in a place where big companies just want to get, and there is no way of helping people but other people. So actually we, the people, we're the only one who are able to help each other, and by making some calls to other people in the world, but not depending on the government or big companies.
Is there hope for the immediate future? Tourists still aren't coming in. Do you feel a sense of hope at the moment?
Yes, of course. We have to keep hope. We're especially taking this interview from Bethlehem, the place of hope, the place of peace and love. We have to keep hope. I do think that it's going to take a while to recover from the pandemic, or even have to live with it, with some security measures and keeping ourselves safe. But eventually, yes, I do believe that we will overcome this pandemic all over the world, and we will have tourists again. There will be prosperity, and people will have jobs, and the situation will be much better economically and socially, at least.
Why do you do what you do?
Because I believe I can help others. That's why I created Fazaa, and I believe that people should yifza'u for others.
And this can make a difference in the community as well, can't it?
The slogan of Fazaa is because it's time to act big, Fazaa for humanity. Because I believe that each person, we cannot change the world, but we can change ourselves. And by changing ourselves, we can affect the community and the people around us. So it is to make an effect on our community, and then the community would affect another community, and then we would just spread the change in the world. And because I believe in human, we don't discriminate between any person for their religion or their sex or their background. We treat each other as humans. And this is what we actually miss nowadays in the world, seeing each other as humans and not as someone from a specific background.
What's your prayer for these families that are struggling at the moment in the Bethlehem area?
I pray for these families to be strong, to have faith in God, that the help is coming, that God has an eye on them and have not forgot them. I pray that our calls and appeal will be heard by a lot of people in the world, and these families will be capable one day of helping others.
And what's your website and Facebook page for people who'd like to know more?
So if you want to know more, you can go to fazaa.ps, which is written Fazaa.ps, and you can also find us on Facebook with the same name, or just write Fazaa. Fazaa.ps.
Okay, Emily, thank you much.
Thank you.